so first up, roll in. I need everyone to go up, have a look around, and pick up something from the room that might tell you something about this time period. So if you were, if you were a historian from 100 years from now, looking back at this time, as you pick up the objects, I want you to think about that, and bring it back, and then we'll talk about it. Don't need that. I need it. I need that. Alright, then we're going to get into groups of 2, and what I want you to do together is try and talk a bit about your object and what conclusions can you draw from that object about this time period. So we'll just get together and we'll do that for a minute.
Well,
yours is due.
We've developed the ability to hold things.
Yeah.
We pretend that was a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So what I want you to think about, firstly, is what is a source? What's a source? And no points for tomato or barbecue. Alright, so can anyone tell me what a source is? Think about, what about when a TV asks you for the source? What is it asking you?
The original.
The original, or what's in the TV, what's coming into? What about if someone said, what's the source of your happiness? Or maybe in this class, the source
Where
of
does
your
it come from?
Where does it come from? So where something comes from, where a thing, a place, or an object comes from. So how might that relate to history?
Where something comes from, say, 1600s, that's a primary source.
Alright, now you're going ahead, but just thinking about sources as a whole, that's good though, Georgie, give you a tick. But thinking about sources as a whole, can you think, what about first-hand and second-hand? Does anyone know what a first-hand account or first-hand means?
When someone tells you direct.
Or
Directly, yeah.
a journal entry.
Journal entry, any other examples? So what's the difference between first-hand as opposed to second-hand?
First hand was there when it happened.
First-hand, you were there when it happened, yeah? So what might second-hand be?
You're writing about something that has happened, but you weren't actually there for it.
Yep, you've heard someone else's account of it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Different example, that's good, different examples. What about if I had a mummy? A mummy we're studying the period of the ancient Egyptians. If I had an actual mummified person here, would you think that was a first-hand or a second-hand?
First hand.
First.
What about if it was a report about how the mummified process happened? It was someone writing about it.
Second hand.
Second-hand, okay. So now moving on.
If they were writing it there.
So,
Doesn't it depend if they were writing it there?
if they were writing, yeah, actually that's a good point, that's a perfect point. So a first-hand account is what?
When you were there.
When you were there. So if they were writing it there, yeah, but if it was, what might be a second-hand account?
A historian writing about the mummification process from what they've seen.
When are they writing it?
Like modern day.
Yeah, after the event. So first-hand is at the event, second-hand is after. The same as, Georgie, what did you say before about...
Primary source.
So which one might be a primary? Which one might be an example of a secondary?
Primary would be first hand, so that would be the mummy, if we had it right here, right now.
The primary source, and you can see it's a pretty good indicator. Secondary source is after the event. We're up to, so what we're going to do now is going to get into 2 groups again. You're going to write down some examples of what you can think of a primary and secondary sources. So you can get the same groups you are. Just put in actually this group here can do primary sources, see if you can think of some examples. This group, see if you can think of some examples of secondary. We'll just do that for 1 minute, see if you can get some.
Primary.
A report, would it be
So,
newspaper?
so the rest is telling me is that primary or secondary?
Like a first hand recount.
Like,
I don't know, would it be a first, if someone was telling you,
About
say,
something.
say Jane was there, and she is telling me
Yep.
about it, is that a primary source?
Okay, are we looking at
So
Jane, are we looking at
say
Jane's
I
perspective or
saw
your
it.
perspective?
So I would be first to
Yeah.
primary, and then
Yeah,
you'd be
like-
secondary.
yeah.
Okay, so primary would be, when you see something happen.
Yeah.
First tennis game, perfect. Right, might run up some examples. What about, and you can use these, maybe this is a primary or secondary. Actually, I'll run it here, so. Might that be,
So if there was like another primary source, could be like a bit of parchment or something, like from that time.
I don't know if you watched a video of a fire,
Yeah, a video of fire.
because then you're still,
Yeah, watching that.
alright, what have we got?
Like a,
So we're doing secondary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Textbook, what might that
Secondary,
be? Photo,
first
first
aid,
hand,
first hand, primary, article? What about newspaper article?
Secondary.
Secondary. What about if it was a newspaper article from, what if we were studying, for example, we were studying, say, what's an example? The Reformation maybe, and I'll use an Australian example. We're studying Indigenous rights. What if there was an article from that time, from the time period where we had, I'm getting nowhere here, time period where maybe the vote was happening, where Aboriginal people were counted in the census. Would that be, if we got an article from that time period, would that be primary or secondary?
Primary.
Primary.
Because
So-
it was what's happening right then and there.
Yeah.
but it's still a recount, which is
Yeah.
secondary.
Secondary. So what
If
that
you don't
article
see
con-
it,
what
or-
that article contains, what that's written, what's the content of that, maybe that's a secondary account or something.
Yeah.
But if you look at the perspective of that account, would that be primary or secondary? Because is it
Primary
is it from-
perspective.
okay, perfect, but is it from that time period or is it from after that
If
time
it's
period?
from that time period, it would be primary.
Yeah.
But say if it's today and we were writing something about it,
Perfect.
it'd be.
Perfect. So primary, the article was from that time period, it's primary. If the article was writing maybe about something specifically that we were looking at, then maybe it would be secondary. But it just depends what you're actually looking at in the article. And what we're going to do now, finish up with a bit of a game, and we'll keep two groups. It's called the source game. We're going to work out which of these is primary, which is secondary. Alright. So what's going to happen? You get a point. I'll take it in turns. You get a point if you get it right. If you call it a primary or secondary. The other team has the right to an objection. If you object to their answer and you get it right, you get 2 points. If you get it wrong, minus 2 points.
We should put that on the table.
Okay, I can do that. I hope this works. Now we'll start with you guys. Primary or secondary? You said
Yeah.
certificate of marriage.
Primary.
No objection?
Primary.
no.
Primary? Oh, one. Alright, I'm gonna put this up.
Yay!
Can someone click the thing when it happens, and I'll put the scores up. Alright. We'll call you Jane and George, JG and K-pop. Right, let's do it. What do we got? It's a textbook. Primary or secondary?
secondary.
No objection?
No.
Boom. 1-1. What's that? Another history book.
Is it a history book or is it the statue?
I think it's a book.
Alright, secondary.
Secondary.
Yeah.
Nailed it. What do we got there?
Photograph,
Photograph. What is it?
primary,
Primary. No objection? It's too easy. Step it up. Okay. Primary. Oh, there we go. Alright, it's a news article.
Tree fell on school bus.
Here we go. This is what we were talking about before.
This afternoon, so.
This afternoon. Should we go primary?
according to eyewitnesses.
So it
Right,
has
let's
to
have a look at
secondary,
it.
because it's
Yeah.
not actually the
The
person.
reporter wasn't there.
Okay, so what are we looking at here? We're looking at the news article.
Yeah.
We're
The
gonna
news
go
article is
secondary.
Going in secondary? Alright.
Yeah.
Because it's after the event.
And it's
the
also-
guy wasn't there.
It's
So
not a
it's
direct-
according
it's not a
to
direct-
witnesses.
Okay,
It's not
got
a
it.
direct account.
Got a direct account, good.
Alright.
This one. Right, it is stepping up difficulty. Right, a few more, I think we're running out of time. A journal. These primary? Yeah. No objection? It's a journal.
No objection, because she's writing it. Although it is after.
It's from her eyes.
So let's object and say secondary. Let's
You
object.
object?
We're objecting.
Okay, so what is it? It's an article, sorry,
It's
it's
a
a journal, it's a journal entry about